What if the kindest thing you ever did led something evil straight to your door? What if the moment you opened your heart to magic and wonder, that same world brought a darkness so ancient and so cold that even the most powerful queen could not stop it alone? Lena thought her story was over. She thought she walked into the forest, did something good, received something beautiful, and came home. She thought it was finished. She was wrong. Because something had been watching the night she stepped through that ancient oak tree. Something old. Something patient. Something that had waited 300 years for a human heart pure enough to break the seal of the hidden kingdom. And now that the door had opened, it was coming through. This is not the end of Lena's story. This is where it truly begins. 3 weeks passed after Lena visited the hidden kingdom. At home, things felt a little lighter. Her father hummed in the mornings. Not every day. Grief doesn't disappear that easily. Some evenings were still quiet. Sometimes he still stared at her mother's empty chair. But the silence felt different now. It wasn't a wall anymore. It felt like weather that would pass. He told small stories at dinner. He said her mother's name again. He smiled when he said it. Lena held her happiness carefully. She knew how fragile it was. She had not gone back to the forest. Every morning she stood at the edge of the farmland and looked at the trees. She felt the pull of it. She almost heard the faint music again. But she stayed away. She understood the difference between an invitation and a trespass. Then, on the 22nd morning, something changed. The forest smelled wrong. The sweet scent was gone. In its place was the smell of cold ash. The leaves near the edge looked strange. Still green, but flat and lifeless. Lena reached out and touched one. It crumbled into dust in her hand. Her heart began to race. By the next morning, the grey had spread deeper into the forest. The grass near the roots turned yellow overnight. And the birds were gone. Not quiet. Not hiding. Gone. The silence was heavy and wrong. The villagers gathered and whispered about disease or blight. But Lena knew this wasn't natural. That night, she couldn't sleep. Just before dawn, a name came to her mind. Malgris. She didn't know how she knew it, but she knew it was true. When she looked at the tree line in the early light, she saw a pale, cold flicker moving between the trees. It was coming closer. At sunrise, Lena stood at the edge of the forest. She didn't enter. She called out softly, "Sylvain, please come." At first, there was only silence. Then the shadows shimmered. Sylvain appeared. But she was weak. Her light was dim. Her wings struggled to keep her in the air. "His name is Malgris," she said. "He was older than the forest. Older than the kingdom. He feeds on life. Not bodies, but warmth. Growth. Connection. He drains it. And what he leaves behind is grey. Why now?" Lena asked. The seal weakened when Lena entered the kingdom. Malgris felt the crack, and he pushed through. "This is my fault," Lena whispered. "No," Sylvain said firmly. The queen knew the risk. Kindness was worth it. But now it has to be fixed. And it requires a human. Fairy magic could not defeat Malgris directly. He was not just cold. He was the opposite of warmth. The queen's power passed through him like light through shadow. But humans were different. Humans can feel grief and joy at the same time. They can lose something and still choose love. That kind of heart cannot be drained. Deep in the forest was an ancient chamber of roots. If a human stood there and spoke 3 anchoring words given by the queen, Malgris could be forced back into the deep darkness. But he would fight. He would use Lena's worst memories against her. Lena thought of her mother's empty chair. She thought of her father humming again. She chose what was worth protecting. Queen Aerindel met Lena at the great oak. She gave Lena 3 ancient words. "Hold the true part. Release the lie," the queen said. Lena walked into the dying forest. The smell of ash filled the air. The trees were grey. Then Malgris attacked. Through memory. Lena was 8 again, standing in the doorway, seeing her mother lying still. The pain felt real all over again. Her knees almost gave out. But she remembered. The true part was not the loss. The true part was the love before it. The stories. The warmth. The laughter. Malgris could show her pain, but he could not take the love that had once been real. The cold pulled back. And Lena kept walking. She reached the chamber beneath the roots. The air felt hollow. Malgris pressed against her again. He threw every painful memory at her. Loneliness, grief, fear. But Lena stood in the center of it. She thought of love that survived winter. She thought of warmth that kept burning. And she spoke the 3 words clearly. A deep, powerful note filled the chamber. The cold light shrank, flickered, and disappeared. The darkness collapsed. Morning light poured into the chamber. Sylvain descended, glowing bright again. "It is done," she whispered. The trees slowly turned green again. The birds returned. The grass began to heal. Life was coming back. "You are the only human in history to drive Malgris back," Sylvain said. "Will he return?" Lena asked. "Perhaps," Sylvain answered honestly. "But the seal you anchored is stronger now. It was anchored by something he cannot corrupt. It was anchored by her." Lena walked home. Her father stood in the garden, staring toward the forest like he felt something had changed. He turned and saw her. He opened his arms. She ran into them. "Are you all right?" he asked quietly. "Yes," she said. And she meant it. Above them, a small flash of gold-green light crossed the sky, like a friend keeping watch. The story was not over. But for this morning, it was enough. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is taking the next step even when fear is present. Pain that has been survived is not a weapon. It is armor. You are stronger than what has hurt you. You always have been. And so Lena's story continues, deeper, braver, and more extraordinary with every step. If this story moved you or made you feel something real, don't forget to subscribe to Goddy's Folktale Lessons. And hit the bell so you are there when the next chapter arrives. Because this story is far from over. Until next time, stay brave, stay kind, and never underestimate what one ordinary person with an extraordinary heart can do. See you in part 3.